All right, you guys. So excited to have Karina Borovic, right?
Barovic.
Borovic on
That's
the
okay.
podcast today. And she is a body worker. I was super fascinated when we started talking about what it is that she does and the modalities that she, blended together to have her own unique healing modality. I think you guys are going to love, listening to what she does. So I'm so excited you're here, Karina.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So what I was fascinated with is you were talking about you help people with like a physical injury, and that's how people end up finding you. Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure, sure. My background is in first layer is massage therapy, and then yoga for the movement, and then energy work. So I kind of blend all of those. But I had a injury, and making life lemons, lemonade out of lemons situation, and so I really learned a lot about different low back injuries, and it was a very long process. But what helped me is because after my back surgery and my C-section, when I would try to work out like I always had, I just would always get hurt. And it was so frustrating because I wanted to be able to stay strong. So having that background, and knowing how to do massage and help people's aches and pains and so forth, I found neurokinetic therapy. And neurokinetic therapy basically repatterns injuries. And we have a focus on scars. It doesn't have to be a scar, but our focus is scars. And so it was interesting because I saw David Weinstock's post about neurokinetic therapy and a lot about different scars and C-sections, especially abdominal surgeries or anything around the core. It really will inhibit muscles around, and then we have compensations. So basically what I'm doing is balance those out. But I did go to a practitioner, and they repatterned that injury with working the scars. And it was fascinating because I know in my body, how to feel like different patterns and things. And I felt that whole basic numbness pattern of my injury return. But I definitely, went inside and was like, this is repatterning, don't go into fear. And because that fear mode, when that injury gets kicked up, is scary to a lot of people. And so, but I worked with it, and I did my homework exercises, and I was better, and so it was very fascinating to me. So then I went through all 3 layers of training, and so that's what I blend now. But the purpose too on being on Las Vegas Awakening, right, is the fact that if people are ready, when you repattern that injury, like we're talking about the fear of it, because it can be scary to repattern that. We don't know what emotions are stuck in that scar, or that with that associated with that injury. And you can open up a can of worms. And so basically when we repattern that injury, I see the nervous system kick up. So I'll do vagus nerve work, do some craniosacral therapy, as well as, give them their homework and tell them exactly what to do to help to balance that out. Because what we work with as a practitioner in that session is going to be working on short-term memory in the motor control pattern. It's like a computer program, right? And then when they do their homework exercises, they're working it into long-term pattern. But the basics of, why I thought we could talk is that, it can help them to awaken if they are willing to, because it can be scary, as we know, when we delve into those layers too.
This is so interesting. So when you say repattern, can you talk a little bit deeper on that? Like, what do you mean repattern? Like, were they living some sort of way because of the injury, or can you explain a little bit?
Could be. There's a lot kind of associated with that, right? So body, mind, spirit. So we take the physical, then whether they had a surgery or they had a car accident or a fall or maybe a concussion, because we work with those too. It can start with, of course, physical, right? But it depends too what was going on at that time, or was it a trauma? Was it because of a trauma, right? what was going on at that time. That emotion can be stuck there, especially in a scar or just in that energy pattern. So, you know, body, mind, spirit, any of those could come in, but of course, where people usually start first is the physical. So they could be living a certain way, right? They could have had a lot going on in their, say, in their personal lives that, you know, got stuck, those emotions got stuck in there as well. And they have no idea. They may not even remember, right? Or like, I'm fine, you know.
Uh-huh.
But it's there, like you say, the body doesn't lie. And when we repress those emotions, then they're stuck in there. So I am aware of that, and I had put my kind of craniosacral training to the side. And when I started doing neurokinetic therapy, I started seeing people like their eyes would start, you know, fluttering, or you can kind of see them kind of get cloudy and go off into space a little bit. And so I started learning how to do the vagus nerve work and work with the nervous system and calm it down, and not just send them out my door and they never come back because now they're scared because of what I just kicked up.
Right. It's so interesting to me, and maybe this is just my part of the journey too, is like really started with mindset and with spiritual awakening and like psychic development. And it's like come full circle to like so many people that are on my podcast or things that I'm interested in. It is going all back to the body.
Right, the physical body, right? And we house all of that, right? We house those 7 layers that go away from our body. We house all of that. The 7 layers that are inside of our body. And you know, even if we can't see the energetics of it, they're there. If we can't see the emotions, but yeah, starting with the physical is usually the easiest because that's what people can touch and feel and see, right?
Right. It's more logical for them. And
It's
then
more
so
logical.
do you find that like your clients, they end up opening up more to the spiritual aspect?
If they are, I say, brave enough, and that's okay if they aren't at that time. I respect that, but and I can put it another way, if they're ready, you know, and that's okay.
Right.
I feel like COVID kind of pushed some of us, right? Because it kicked up all of our fears, and it was if we were willing to or not. So, and I can kind of tell that when they come, kind of how much to push them gently, right?
Yeah.
Because let's take a C-section or a hysterectomy scar, or any abdominal scar for that matter, because that's usually the place that creates the most dysfunction in our body, because that's where our stability lies for our whole body. So let's take a C-section scar. Like for instance, mine, I didn't think it was traumatic, you know. So for some ladies it is, or cords wrapped or something, but there's trauma there because the more I delved into it, yeah, there was some trauma there, you know, because of course your body is, you know, being cut open to get this baby. We don't feel that, but it's stuck there, right? So some women are so squeamish, they don't even want it touched because it's numb and feels weird. And that's okay, right? I respect that, because I'll tell them, if you had a C-section, it's one of the main things that need to be worked, because of it cuts through all of your abdominal fascia. That's your stability. So it really, like, your jaw will overcompensate, a hip will jam up, pelvic ligaments will jam up. And so there's a lot of compensation that happens from these scars. And so basically, some people are ready and some people aren't to have that work, to be able to repattern like we were talking about. Or maybe another way would be to balance out the body, because a scar is going to, we call it facilitate or overwork. It's like Big Brother trying to do too much, right? Or the helicopter parent. Okay, and then what happens is other muscles or structures, it will downfire or inhibit. So we would work the scar, and then we would activate structures or muscles around there to balance out everything so things can function better. So that's the repatterning part.
The repatterning. So you must notice behavioral patterns changing in your clients too then, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So first, sometimes it will kick up like the fear, and usually fear is what I see a lot of times. And then the deeper layers are kind of like patterns. But like, I will take one client, for instance. She had back surgery. She had the pattern already set in her brain, like, I can't do this. So talking about behavioral patterns, I can't do this because I have a bad back. And the more we repatterned it, the more she realized, oh my gosh, my back's not hurting anymore, you know? So I'm like, well, maybe it's time to you repattern the thought process. Maybe my body is whole and complete, you know? And she has just grown leaps and bounds in the spiritual aspect. And although, you know, some of those layers are hard because the more, you know, we ask for it, the more universe will give it to us, and we have to heal that layer. But yeah, she's just grown leaps and bounds. So I've seen tons of behavioral changes with her throughout probably four years or so. And she's just on a great path to help others now.
Yes, right. Your darkness is always ends up being your light. Right.
Absolutely. If you allow it to be.
You know, I just recorded, I've been recording a lot the last couple of weeks, and I just had another girl on here, and I love, like, I love spirit, first of all, but it's like, I love how the two of you both had different modalities, right? And then grew, and then all of a sudden found this main modality that you're doing, but you're using your yoga, your craniosacral. And I love to encourage my listeners to like, when we're spiritual, we're definitely usually multifaceted. And if you're an entrepreneur, a lot of people get really lost because they're like, oh my gosh, am I a Reiki master? Am I a psychic? Am I a this? Am I a that? Am I a healer? And so you're allowed to be all of those. And you're allowed to find your own modality, whatever that may be. And I think it's so fascinating. It's like go from one modality to the other and just be like, now here I am. The other thing I wanted to say is how you were saying the lady was telling herself, I can't do that because my back. Like, how many people tell themselves some crazy bullshit story, right? I have somebody that's always saying, I can't do that because I don't have time. Well, there's no such thing as time, right? So
Right.
it's, we tell ourselves these stories and we stay trapped or a prisoner to that story.
And that's our choice, right? If we want, we can have another choice.
Right. But most people aren't self-aware enough, I think, or they feel trapped, and they just, that's their identity. They've created an identity and they're manifesting exactly what that identity is.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's really cool when you can, and you, I'm sure, can attest to this because you help people too. But when you help people to be able to see beyond that and a broader scope, because she knows that she was just telling her stories. She first realized, well, I've been telling a story that I had spinal meningitis since I was a baby. I'd walk up to people and be like, yeah, spinal meningitis. She laughs about it now, you know, because she did, and it's true. But you know, then be like, nope, I can't do that. I might have a bad back. You know, she laughs about it now because she knew she was telling her story, and she's much more than that. But we think we're just that, and we're more than that.
I love that.
You know,
I love that. I think no matter where you're at in your journey, there is a little bit of a story somewhere, because I tell myself some stories and I wake up and then I'm like, will you shut the hell up? Like,
it's the
that is not
parasite.
true. Like, that is not true, damn it.
It's the parasite inside there. We have to see that. Like, no, you know, you no, that's not true.
Yeah. So you got into this because of your injury, and then just went down this crazy path, and now you're the healer, and now, there's a card in one of my decks, healing, healed, healer, right? It's like
Right.
you
Healer
go
needs to
down
be
that
healed.
path. And now that lady, and I think it's great because now you're looking at the ripple effect of like the lady that you're seeing now, she's going on. I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. And those are the clients that I love. I love all my clients, but those are the clients that I'm just so proud of, because I mean, that's really how I started when I was 23, you know, it was because my mom had back surgery and she needed it. But at the same time, I'm like, there's got to be other things. And so that's when I finished. I was going to be a criminal psychologist, and I finished college and went to massage school right away. So, and it's history from there. So,
Yeah, I love it. So do you do these, is this just a local thing only, or do you help like online clients? Because is
it's a
it
good
just,
question.
yeah, okay.
So I do have a place here in Henderson that's called Create Peace Functional Movement Institute. So I do have a place that I do physical work because, you know, that it's nice to put people like, you know, the hands put on them. However, I do have a self-care fix that I called it. And I do have online classes and a virtual studio that has a library of like 250 videos. So I have a brand called Sphere Therapeutics, and it's a blend of my lovely little spheres. So I have an air-filled sphere, and then I have aromatherapy massage balls, and we utilize yoga, movement, breathing, and some nervous system work that I have online. And I also can do online for helping people, like say with back injuries or something like, they want to repattern a C-section scar, or abdominal scar, or whatnot. I work with anybody, but I do like to specialize in women's health in that regard. So
Well, that makes sense. Yeah.
yeah, so I can reach more people that way, because I can only, these hands, it's been 27 years. These hands are tired, but that way I can reach more people as well.
Yeah. And that's on your website?
It is. It is.
What's
on
your
my
website?
It's going to be Create Peace FMI. So Functional Movement Institute, Create Peace FMI. And the brand is Sphere Therapeutics, TIX.com. So, brand. So,
Well, yeah, you'll have to link me to it, and then we'll throw that in the show notes, because, I have audience that's all over the place. And I know they might be interested in finding out like more about this. It's so very interesting. All these different healing modalities and how they can help people live a better life, not just heal from their injury, right?
absolutely. It's multifaceted, like you said. There's so much that can be done. And like you say, once you open up that can of worms, then you never know what you'll find, but it's all good stuff to grow.
Yeah. Can you share with the audience what the vagus nerve is that you were talking about? Because I know a little bit about it, but I know people might be like, what is she talking about? Because this is a big thing, right? This is
Yeah,
a big
absolutely.
thing
And
that people talk about. Okay.
I'm super happy too that it's become more mainstream, and lymphatics too, because they kind of run together. But yeah, I'd be glad to. So the vagus nerve is, they call it a wanderer. And it's funny because, Vegas is like wander, but it's spelled a little different, VAGUS. The vagus nerve, it comes out of the brainstem, and it comes down here, and then it's very interesting because it wraps around on the left side around the stomach. And so it's part of the nervous system. It can help regulate, it can be parasympathetic or sympathetic, but we can help regulate our parasympathetic, which is our calm, rest, digest, whereas the sympathetic is our fight or flight, because we live the lives we do. We're always in fight or flight, right? We're always stressed. So the vagus nerve can be worked with to stimulate, to help us come into that fight or flight. And if you couple that with breathing, it's very helpful. But I can show like a really simple little technique for the vagus nerve. It doesn't take a lot. People think it does, but it doesn't. It's right here on the surface, but you can come right behind your ears, right here.
Can you describe what you're doing? Because people won't be able to see all, like,
absolutely. So I'm taking 2 fingers and I'm coming behind my ear, and I'm just kind of swiping down about 5 times, real gently, about 5 times right in here. And then you want to come above and below the clavicle. So kind of same thing, 5 swipes here, and then 5 swipes underneath the clavicle, collarbone. And then you could even tap down your sternum if you want. That's really helpful too. And a lot of these go right along with, like I say, lymph, working with lymph as well. And I can show you, I don't have my small vibration ball because I gave it away, but there is a small vibration ball that's nice, but you can also use this big one. You don't want to overstimulate, but you can stimulate with vibration as well to move the lymph and stimulate. So you just turn it on low, and you just come behind here. And again, only like 5, because you don't want to do too many. And then you could come above and below clavicle and keep it really short and simple, and the sternum, and you actually will feel more calm with it. Okay. So it is cool though that it wraps around the stomach, because if you think about it, when you're in fight or flight, your stomach is affected.
Yes, very much so. Oh, that's so helpful, because I think a lot of us find ourselves in that flight or fight when we have that trauma thought, that middle of the night, oh my gosh, worrying about health or wealth or whatever it is that you guys worry about, right? And it's like, calm your tits.
Absolutely. And it's simple and you can do it anywhere and people won't look at you that strange. And even if they would, who cares? But,
Yeah.
or just tap here because it runs through here, and then just taking 3 deep breaths would be super helpful. And if you make your exhale a little longer than your inhale, like maybe a 4 to 6 count, like 4 inhale, 6 exhale, or even 4 to 8, 4 inhale, 8 exhale. That helps also to bring in the parasympathetic mode that you could couple with working the vagus nerve. Super simple. We don't have to make it complicated.
Right. Just knowing these little tips, like if you guys are stressed the hell out,
Right.
got to get back in your body. And it's like,
Yes.
this vagus nerve, some people call it different things.
Yeah,
Technique.
absolutely. But I like that, getting back into your body, because when we have trauma, we're usually not in our bodies, right?
Right. And our breath gets shallow and our thoughts go fast. What a nightmare. It happens to me still. Still.
Absolutely.
But at least I'm
Absolutely.
conscious enough where I'm like, okay, you're outside of your body. You better calm down.
Right. And that's how we learn, right? After time, we're like, oh, because we're all people, we're all humans, right? We have to live in this world.
Yeah.
Yep. Calm down.
Oh my gosh. So I can't thank you enough for coming on here and describing all this. This is such an educational episode. So yeah,
Absolutely. Yay. I
we'll
love
definitely link your website and have people come find you and get their learn on about, you know, rebalancing your injuries. Whoever thought of that? It makes complete sense now that you've been on here, but yeah, how that injury can affect your mindset and your everything around you.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to come on and talk, because I enjoy it. So I appreciate it.
Yay.
Awesome.